Everyone, it is 6 p.m. on December 12th, 2022, and I'm going to call the meeting to order. I'd like to invite Chaplain Robin Kramer from the Madison Police Department to come forward to give her invocation.
Pray with me, please. Father God, we just thank you for the reason of this season, Lord, and we thank you for your presence in our lives every day, Lord. We ask that you will be in the midst of this meeting and in the midst of conversations tonight, Lord, to keep everyone clear-headed and let your wisdom prevail. Lord, be with our first responders who are out this evening, Lord, serving in your capacity. Keep them safe. Send them home to their families. In your Son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor. Thank you. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. You ready for the roll call?
Mayor Finley?
Here.
Councilmember Robleski?
Here.
Councilmember Spears?
Here.
Councilmember Powell?
Here.
Councilmember Shaw?
Here.
Council President Bartlett?
Here.
Councilmember Denzine?
Here.
Councilmember Seifert?
Here.
Are there any amendments to the agenda?
Nope.
Congratulations, Mr. Kilgore and Council. The agenda is approved as printed. We're going to begin with approval of the minutes. First, we have minutes number 2022-22-RG dated from November 28th. Can I have a motion in a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Powell, second by Councilwoman Spears. Any discussion? Okay, calling for a vote.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Council President Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw?
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert?
Aye.
Next, we have minutes number 2022-06-WS dated November 30th, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Ready for a vote.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Council President Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw?
Abstain.
Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert?
Aye. I watched the other ones.
Motion passes. Minutes number 2022-02-SP dated November 30th, 2022.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion? Ready for a vote.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert?
Aye.
Council President Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw?
Abstain.
Councilmember Denzine?
Aye. Okay, motion passes. And finally, minutes number 2022-03-SP dated December 5th, 2022.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Ready for a vote.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Council President Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw?
Abstain.
Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert?
Aye.
And that motion passes. Now we're at presentations and awards. We're going to begin with the Fire Department badge pinning ceremony. Chief Bailey, would you like to come forward?
Good evening, everyone. Mayor and Council, thank you for allowing us a few minutes tonight to recognize several of our members on their successful promotions. While we plan to conduct this ceremony every year in December, we missed it last year for various reasons. Therefore, we have 18 members to recognize this evening that were promoted from March of 2021 to April of this year. To achieve promotion in Madison Fire and Rescue, one must be purposeful, deliberate, and dedicated to serving our citizens and their own professional development. Each person must serve in their current rank for a minimum of 2 years and complete a task book to be eligible to sit in the assessment center for the next rank. The task book for each rank is designed to ensure that the individual is competent to serve in that overhead role. Once completed, the member may then stand in the next position in an acting capacity as needed. The task book work and their time acting helps to develop them to be our next leaders. To get promoted, they then must compete with their peers and demonstrate competency in an assessment center. So via the years of service, their task book completion, and competition, each of these members, along with the rest of our drivers and officers, have earned the right to progress in their careers. As I call your name, please come up and face the audience, and please bring your family member, colleague, or friend that will pin your badge representing the rank that you recently earned. So Deputy Chief Dustin Spires is not here. He and his wife are in Italy right now on a trip. I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, but I'm standing here tonight. So Captain Brandon Burgess also is not here. He is doing daddy duty tonight at home. Captain Dan Pickens? Dan here? Nope. All right. So it's going to be a little smaller. That's good. Captain Chris Ramsey? Captain Brandon McGill? Driver Bryant Smith? Driver Michael Acord? Driver Mitchell Sowers? Driver Jonah Cowan? Driver Ken Howard? Driver Stephen Long? Driver Gage Tolton? Driver Ryan Ledford? Driver Travis Tanner, get it right. Driver Stephen Chop. Driver Cody White. Driver Nathan Hankins, and Driver Jacob Stewart. I went down, Dad. Okay. I just real quick want to note that the badges that we wear symbolize our purpose and the trust that we must maintain with all of our citizens. We trace the use of our fire service badges back to the Knights of Malta. Originally, they were referred to as the Knights of St. John. This group was formed during the Crusades. Throughout the 11th century, they cared for the sick and wounded and safeguarded the homeland while soldiers were off crusading. In their era, their creed included gallantry, chivalry, and courage. More recently, our country's lineage with our badge traces back to December the 7th, 1736, when Benjamin Franklin co-founded the Union Fire Company in Philadelphia. This was the first fire company in our colonies that protected the lives and property of the entire community, as we continue to do today. Our creed has evolved since then to include honor, integrity, and service. Please pin your firefighter as we continue our tradition of trust.
Listen for any screams.
Thanks to all of you for your dedication to service and to your families that support you in all your efforts.
Congratulations, everyone. Next, we have the 2022 Alabama Small Business of the Year Award winners, and they're going to be recognized by our Madison Chamber of Commerce Executive Director, Michelle Epling.
Just turn around.
You can either way.
Dear Mayor Paul Finley and City Council, as the Executive Director of the Madison Chamber of Commerce, I have the distinct honor tonight introducing you to our nominees and winners for the Madison Chamber of Commerce. The awards were presented by a partnership between the Business Council of Alabama and the Chamber of Commerce Association of Alabama at a ceremony two Wednesdays ago at the club in Birmingham. The head of our nomination committee was Terri Johnson with Mosaic AV, and she truly deserves the credit for these award winners. She spent a lot of time and hours helping me get these nominations submitted, and we actually have not only 3 nominees, but we have 3 winners as Alabama State Small Business of the Year. So at this time, I'd like to introduce each one of them, and if we can maybe get a picture, that would be great. So the first one is Virtuoso Realty Group, received the Bronze Award for Emerging Small Business of the Year. Virtuoso Realty Group is owned by Pamela Bass, and Pamela, just so y'all know, was our 2021 Ambassador of the Year for the Madison Chamber of Commerce. She has been right by my side coaching me the last 13 months, and I am so proud of her for winning the bronze and 3rd place for this award. So can we please give her a round of applause? Congratulations, Pamela, and I am just so proud of her. The next award goes to Sherry Burnham. She won Silver Place with Investors Resource. I'm sure y'all are familiar with Sherry. She is our past chairman of the board for the Madison Chamber of Commerce. She led our chamber through COVID-19 and through hiring me. So we are so proud of her and her dedication. She is also the reason we now have our traditional holiday mingle. She was our first sponsor for it last year, and now we have such a wonderful holiday tradition in the city of Madison. So it is my honor to introduce my first ever and past chairman of the board, Sherry Burnham, for winning Silver Place for 1 to 10 employees for the Alabama State Small Business of the Year.
And congratulations on the new puppy, Sherry.
Oh, yes. Last but not certainly least, Alice and Steve Lessman with Signal Link, who we know are tireless community volunteers and supporters here in the city of Madison, also got Silver Place for 51 to 100 employees as the Alabama Small Business of the Year. A veteran-owned business, they truly work tirelessly each and every day in our community, and they helped us last year. I had an idea for a Men in Business event, and Alice and Steve were like, let's try it. So I am so thankful for them. They more than deserving for everything they do, and congratulations. Thank you all so much. And we have so many wonderful business owners, but we're so proud that we have 3 state winners for Small Business of the Year. So thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Michelle, for everything you do being the executive director. We really appreciate you.
We appreciate y'all too. So thanks. Happy holidays.
Thank you, Michelle, and congratulations, everyone, on your recognition at the state level. Next is public comments. All comments are limited to 3 minutes. As a reminder, please go to the podium and speak directly into the microphone so people at home can hear, and closed captions will work. First, state your name and your council, district, or neighborhood. You no longer need to state your home address. Address your remarks to me as the City Council President. The council will not enter into dialogue at this time. This section of the agenda is for you, the public, to inform us, the City Council, about your views. If you have questions, we will ask staff to address them at an appropriate time after the meeting. We've had a couple of people submit comment cards, and so I'm going to call them up first. The first person, I think only left a first name. Robert?
What's that? Is it Peters?
Peters? Oh, is that your last name? It's under the date. Okay, Robert Peters, if you would like to come forward.
Robert Peters, I'm with Karen's district. I'm not sure which one that is, the number anyway. But my wife and I are formerly from Colorado prior to moving to Alabama several years ago, about 8 years ago. And we know what they went through in terms of medical dispensaries for cannabis, I'll call it marijuana. And we're firmly against having cannabis dispensaries for medical purposes in Madison, as well as the state of Alabama. We tried to get Mike Ball to vote against it in Alabama. He didn't. He rather promoted it. And you see the marijuana industry promoting it with a few sickly children who their parents claim they couldn't get along without TCP or TCB for their children, and they need it readily available through a dispensary. The logic of this fails me, because here we have FDA never pushing marijuana. We have national level, it's illegal. And then all of a sudden, the state of Alabama somehow gets some kind of wisdom that comes to them, I don't know where from, being that we're a conservative state, that this is needed for some medical purposes. Well, it's not in the pharmacies. Your doctor can't get it for you. And all of a sudden, we need it. And we need special dispensaries for it. How strange is this, with all the good pharmaceuticals, all the good pain relievers, all the good measured and prescribed ways to alleviate pain, that all of a sudden we need special dispensaries for marijuana. I don't see the logic. I don't see the need. I don't want it for several reasons. Number one, it's going to degrade the city of Madison. You're going to see marijuana signs. You're going to see Red Cross with it. You're going to see people getting prescriptions from so-called doctors for chronic pain, so they can go to these dispensaries for their chronic pain when they never needed to go to these dispensaries for their chronic pain. I see it as a black eye for Madison. I see it as a black eye for the state of Alabama. And it's been proven over and over, the state of Colorado, many people wished they had never voted when included medical dispensaries for marijuana in that state. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. The next person who's also reserved on a comment card is Jacqueline Peters.
I'm wife to that good man of 40 years. Best guy around, I'll tell you.
You might want to pull the microphone down.
Oh, best guy around, I'll tell you. Okay. Let's see. Where do we start? Well, my husband and I are in accord on this. And in January 24th, 2022, Dr. Mark Johnson, who is the head of the Colorado Medical Association, he wrote an opinion in the Colorado Sun. You may go and read it. But the headline states, after 20 years, because it was 20 years ago in 2000, Colorado started this, after 20 years, it's clear that marijuana is not a medicine. We bought a pig in a pokey. Is that pokey or poke?
Oak.
This is the director of the Colorado Medical Association, okay? He says it may be far too late for us to reverse legalization in Colorado, but let's not kid ourselves. Politics, not medicine, ruled the day. He went on to state the many negative consequences and harm physically that he has seen by people who are using medical marijuana or recreational marijuana. And you can go and read what he says. But I'll give you some research. A Stanford study of April 29, 2022 said, anyone who smokes marijuana more than once has an increased risk of heart attack and heart disease, according to a large study led by researchers at Stanford Medicine. Cleveland Clinic anesthesiologist, November 22nd, can you tell I'm a former television anchor woman? November 22nd, 2022, says they reviewed 20 studies and they found cannabis is no better at relieving pain than a placebo. And they said during those 24 hours, those who took cannabis, they had to give them more opioids. Not a good thing. Studies have shown a connection between marijuana and car crashes. Let me read from the CDC. Marijuana warnings. Marijuana, what we know about it now. The CDC, April 13th, 2022. Marijuana can lead to increased risk of stroke, heart disease, other vascular diseases. Smoked marijuana, regardless of how it is smoked, can harm your lungs, tissues, cause scarring, damage small blood vessels. 3 in 10 people are going to have marijuana disorders. And I'm saying it's probably going to be your kids because the brain is not fully formed until age 25. In Colorado, we found most of the people using medical marijuana, 80% of them after 2 years. Who were they? Young men falsely complaining of back pain with fraudulent doctors approving it. Okay? This is going to kill our children. What's that?
Sorry, your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I could go on and on with it. It's God's truth. God's truth. Think about how it'll destroy our kids.
Do we have anyone else from the audience who would like to speak during public comments? Please come forward and state your name and your district.
Margie Daly, Karen's district. We believe you have lost your way. Job is to represent constituents and keep safe. The roads are unsafe. They need sufficient safe lighting, paving, reflective stripes, and improvement. Need a tornado shelter. Another tornado, only a matter of time. 3 Springs, the perfect building, an old juvenile jail, spending 11 plus under the roof of an unneeded, unwanted community center. The plan is trash, garbage, a waste of tax dollars. Intent, take our senior center away and give us trash with zero public input. We have a beautiful YMCA and a senior center with a safe room. We need an adequate animal shelter. The separate building, animal shelter, could double during tornadoes. City manager, totalitarian government, misled everyone on the fact the mayor would have any power or a vote on the council. I have read the correct law into the record. Flyovers, published legal notice for public hearing, never held, proven not needed by ALDOT. Flies over Madison, yet the tax dollars pay 100%. The past 10 years, 2 tax increases obtained through the school system with city and Board of Ed officials in the lead, a guise for schools now intended for the general fund. The city plans another $12 million increase in 2025, stated on the timeline and city site. Play to pay. We have federal PPP given to city and county officials. We lost businesses. You paid friends, families, and sponsors. We have councils and directors buying up land in planned development zones. Unethical at best. We need a ladder truck, building multi-level buildings now before a non-senior trash community center and flyovers. Public input policy, removed our voices, covers up where our tax dollars go, refuse we the people presentation part of the policy. Only developers, nonprofits funneling money, and cronies get to use this public time. Currently, it's Gestapo, pushing for dictatorship. Everything I have stated has documentation. As far as the Zoom-in councils, if you guys can't make 2 council meetings a month, then you should resign. We don't need to have Zoom-in. That's about it.
Thank you, Ms. Staley. We have another card turned in from a Tammy Hall. Please come forward, state your full name and the district that you live in.
My full name is Tammy Hall. I'm the owner of Main Street Cafe in downtown Madison. I am representing, I live in a different district, but the district that I'm here for is Teddy's district. Thank you all, first of all, for allowing us to speak. Thank you, President Bartlett, Mayor, and Council. The reason I'm here today, I'm present with several of the other merchants from downtown and some of the residents of Church Street. We are here regarding the removal of the Christmas parade from downtown Madison to Hughes Street. We are not sure why this was done. It was done in 2021 and this year as well, 2022. We were told, of course, 2020 was a no year for everything. But we were told that it's as a result of the railroad and the issues that we run into with the train. For us, that's not really a good answer because we deal with that train every single day. I mean, I deal with it every day. It stops traffic. I have a point on my website that has stuck at the train, helping people get around the train. So it's just part of daily life here in Madison. If you don't like the train, you might as well just go live somewhere else because you're going to be impacted by the train. So for the train to be the main reason, if it is, we're really unaware why it was switched, but we don't think that that's a legitimate reason from our standpoint. Our petition to the mayor and council is that we want visibility. We know that the city has spent a ton of money developing downtown. We want revenue. We want to generate revenue for the city. We spend a lot of time and effort decorating downtown for Christmas. I spend time in my restaurant. All the business owners, I mean, you should see boxes and boxes of stuff coming in for people trying to generate Christmas traffic. We see the Christmas parade as a visibility point where people come in, see downtown. I've been in the restaurant 4 years, and there's almost every single day people walk in and say, I had no idea y'all were here. So we're not visible enough yet. So we don't want any events pulled away from downtown Madison that can increase that visibility, and the Christmas parade is one of those events. We see this as a return on investment from the city. The money that you've spent up doing what you've done to downtown Madison, the amphitheater, is hopefully we're going to get an entertainment district soon if enough of us get liquor licenses. The things that we're doing to try to, in conjunction, I'm not good at speaking, but in addition to what the city has spent, we see this as a return on investment of what the city can do. And my last point is, when you envision your kids taking a picture with Santa, is it better to have a picture with Santa on a 4-lane highway or in front of a 100-year-old home? We say the latter, and so we thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Would anyone else like to address the council?
Jennifer Coe, 910 Highland Drive, Ashley Estates, District 5, Council President. I'd like to lead off with transparency. Why have the agenda packets been removed from the archived meetings? We went over this with the clerks during a meeting, I believe it was in October. I specifically asked if the transition to new software would eliminate the packets from being able to look up agenda packets from, say, a meeting in October or a meeting in 2021 or whenever. Number 2, public hearings. I still want to know why you advertised, Mr. Kilgore, you advertised a public hearing for the adoption of a funding agreement with Town Madison but they never held a public hearing. This funding agreement was to allow the city to undertake the construction and installation of flyover access ramps from I-565 to town Madison. So now that the city is officially taking the bonds out under general obligation, shouldn't we have had a hearing? After all, the public is supposed to be benefiting from the public use, increased sales tax, property tax, beverage tax, lodging and gasoline tax, increased economic and business opportunities, tourism and quality of life. We were supposed to discuss whether the expenditure of public funds and lending of credit will serve a valid and sufficient public service, notwithstanding any individual financial, material, or other benefits accruing to private persons or entities such as Town Madison's bondholder, Regions Bank, and any other investors or partners like perhaps the bond salesman. As far as the Town Madison Cooperative, why does the ordinance number 2022-334 for the authorization to issue the warrants state that the sum of the debt is going to be $79,345,000 when the city is clearly capitalizing the interest? So June 1st, it'll be $1,558,437,000, and on December 1st, 2023, we'll have $1.8 million due just for the interest. So the purchase of the bonds is really going to be, when you're including all the underwriting fees, an $83,724,500, which includes the premium. So why are we financing all these interest payments? Why are we capitalizing the interest? I mean, is the city so broke that we can't put the down payment on these bonds? Let's see, and this is for economic development?
Thank you, Ms. Coe. Your time is up. Is there anyone else who would like to address the public? Please come forward, state your name and district.
Good evening, Council, Mayor, Ms. Bartlett. I'm Terri Johnson from District 6. Many of you know that I've been working with the group Madison Forward to collect signatures to put the council manager form of government on the ballot. And I just want to remind everyone here that the question on the petition says, shall the council manager form of government as provided by the Council Manager Act of 1982 be adopted for the city of Madison? And I hear a lot of contradictory things about what the Act says, so I just want to mention to you that in the Alabama Code, which anyone can look up, and I certainly encourage them to do that, 11-43A-1.1, it clearly outlines the fact that if we go to a council manager form of government, the mayor would be the president of the city council, and he or she would have full voting rights on the council. That's very clear in the code, 11-43A-1.1. Some who say that the mayor would not be allowed to have a vote may be referring to 11-43A-70, which is part of the Council Manager Act of 1991. That would not be applicable in this case. That act, if you read 11-43-70, it says that that is for cities who already have a council manager form of government. They can adopt additional articles if they so choose. So sometimes that's not clearly stated by others, and I just wanted to say that. I'm a mathematician, not a lawyer, but the code is clear enough to read that, and I have, checked it out with some other people, so I just wanted to say that. And lastly, I just want to say thank you for your service. I wish you all a Merry Christmas. The city looks beautiful, and I just thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson.
Would anyone else like to address the council? Please come forward. I think you've already addressed the council during public comments. I'm sorry, you only have three minutes in public comments. I'm sorry.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I saw somebody else want to come back up.
Good evening. I just wanted to thank you for pushing.
Your name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Heather Morgan, District 5. I know it was a hard decision, last week with the community center. There was uncertainty. The money, was tricky. I wouldn't have wanted to have to make that decision, but I wanted to thank you for making that decision. I think it is going to be an awesome center, and I think it's a good investment for our community. And so often we put our senior citizens and people who are disabled, they're an afterthought. It's like we do everything else and they come last. So I like that we're being proactive and we're providing a place for people in our community who are often overlooked. I have a son who's disabled, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council during public? Would you like to, are you trying to answer something? I think.
I just wanted to address one. There was some discussion about the Mayor's Council Act. I just wanted to read that provisions that were.
Okay, all right. To clarify, since we had two different competing statements, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to point out that Section 1143A-1.1, the mass petitioner did a very good job of citing the code section, very specifically states that one member, I'm sorry, I'll start from the beginning, that a Class 8 municipality, such as us, having the mayor council form of government by resolution or council, may provide for the council and a municipal proposing to adopt the city manager form of government to be comprised of either 5 or 7 members as follows. And it says, one member shall be the mayor elected at large. It goes on to say, who shall be a voting member of the council, and either 4 or 6 members shall be council members elected either at large or from single-member districts as the resolution shall provide. And I just want to point out, this is not easy to navigate if you're just simply doing an internet search. There's 2 different articles to this. They're kind of piecemeal. They're amended in places. So it really takes digging in and understanding how to navigate those statutes. So I understand why there's confusion. But this is absolutely the operative statute that gives us the powers for the mayor should we transition into the Manager-Mayor Act.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Council Manager.
Council Manager Act. Thank you. And public comments are closed. And we will move on to the consent agenda and Finance Committee report.
The Finance Committee has reviewed the consent agenda and the regular bills to be paid. And with that, I'd like to move to approve.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Ready for a vote.
Councilmember Shaw,
Aye.
Councilmember Powell,
Aye.
Council President Bartlett,
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski,
Aye.
Councilmember Spears,
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine,
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert.
Aye.
And the consent agenda and Finance Committee report passes. And presentations of reports, Mayor Finley.
All right, and I have several things. I'll go fairly quickly. First, I want to congratulate everybody who is with NASA, a contractor with NASA, or anyone else who brought home the Orion spacecraft and did the Artemis mission. We were lucky enough yesterday, the marathon that they held in Huntsville blocked off the Space and Rocket Center. They needed another place to have the splashdown party, and we were able to have that at Toyota Field yesterday. And it was just neat to see so many people who have worked on that for years and years, as proud as they were to bring it home, and just a flawless mission. So, you know, to everyone who's been involved with that, that's a huge win. I did have to explain to somebody that the splashdown was not actually happening at Toyota Field. It was just a celebration there. But once we got past that, it was smooth sailing from there. Secondly, one of the things that this is a meeting that we held. That there's also a Thursday, December 15th, Planning Commission meeting. It's held once a month. And that happens this Thursday. A lot of folks can go to that. You can find the agenda on our website. But a couple of neat things that are coming out of that this time. One of them is, you know, we've had a lot of people talk to us about the intersection of Madison Boulevard and Sullivan Street on the northeast corner, that old dilapidated gas station. And the neat thing is they have purchased 3 different parcels, and there will be a big MAPCO gas station that's coming in there. That's on the Planning Commission for approval. Hexagon, which, again, the City Council will be brought a contract. You've approved that, the purchase of that. They're splitting that property up, about 20 acres that the city will be able to get that would be for public safety, but eventually, from a funding standpoint, support some of the things we're looking to do in recreation. Town Madison has 2 things that are on there. One is a plat that, in turn, helps with 2 certified plats. It's Edgar's Bakery and something called The Village, which is, a shopping center that will have multiple little businesses in there. And then also a second one that has certified for lots that the Homewood Suites will be on right as you come off the interchange on the right-hand side, which will be the 5th hotel that will be in the town Madison area. Again, one of the things we did with the agreement, council, when you in turn are going forward with the bonds, when we took out for no return the developer, that gives us all of the new hotels in town Madison, or at least the first 3 hotels go directly towards supporting paying off the multi-use venue. And then there's 2 more hotels along with the other funding that's there. So multiple things are on the Planning Commission agenda. Folks can go see that. It's Thursday night. Do want to talk about, we hear you guys loud and clear when it comes to the parade. We respect what you're saying when it comes to safety. We also listen to our police chief, our fire chief, our recreation. So we do want to find that balance. Was thrilled with the turnout on the Wassel Fest and trying to get more folks downtown. And so we'll listen, try to accomplish what we can when it comes to that. I will say that, it was unfortunate we couldn't hold that Saturday. Weather just simply took us out of the Christmas parade. We can overcome a little rain. We can't overcome lightning and just hard rain. And so we made the decision. We tried to hold off as long as we can. We made that late. By the time we got to Sunday, we only had 8 folks who told us that they for sure would be in the parade. And if we were to look to have it even possibly next week, of the 42 participants, Corey and them have already talked, only at the most 15 would be in that parade. So based on the information, I think we won't have a parade this year. We will take into account next year where to have it and how to have it. And again, public safety was the primary reason it wasn't held down there, even though we are just as focused on the involvement of our community in historic downtown Madison to try to get them where they need to be. Lastly, I'll say, in listening to council with some of the discussion that went on, what we're in process of doing right now, working with our department heads, we've asked council, and then the mayor's office will bring forth and starting to put together a list of capital improvement projects that we'll be bringing to you guys, as hopefully in the early parts of January, from a funding standpoint, looking to see where we would spend money as a mayor council. One of the things that IT has looked into is upgrades in this room for everything from microphones to projectors, so trying to make it easier for the community to hear in here, on TV, on all the social media pieces that we have. So I'll be probably bringing that to you guys next week as far as a possibility, most likely somewhere a little bit over $44,000, that it would be for all of the different things that are needed for the screens, the microphones, the projectors. IT has about $15,000 in their budget to do something like that. We would look only to bring it to you a little bit earlier using special projects, because there's about a 5 to 6 month lead time on a lot of the things that are needed, and where we typically would wait until mid-year, we'll at least be trying to get you guys that information on what it will do, and then see if we can make a decision to bring it earlier. We can wait if we want to, but this would give us a lot more flexibility. And with that said, that is all I have. Move forward.
That's a lot. Thank you. District number 1.
Yes, ma'am. The first thing I have for you for your approval is ordinance 2022-323. This is an amendment to City Code Section 32-131 to prohibit parking on the median on the west side of Walden Glen Road near Browns Ferry Road. We had our first reading on this subject on November 28th, and with that, I move to approve.
Second. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I just want to again say thank you so much to our city attorney, Brian Kilgore, for fast-tracking this, and the Walden community for their support. And there's already a pole there. We just need to get Public Works to put a sign up there, and I just really appreciate the speed that this happened regarding the safety issue. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All right, ready for a vote.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Council President Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw?
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you all. I appreciate that. The only other item I have is for our second year in a row, we are participating in our stockings for MPD and Madison Fire and Rescue. We have a Sign Up Genius website for that. If you would like to participate, please send me an email. And what this is an opportunity to recognize our first responders and our police and fire department with a token of appreciation. They may have gift cards in them, snacks, candy bars, They really love letters of encouragement. It's been a very tough year for everyone involved with regard to COVID, and our first responders, are on the front lines of that. And so if you would like to honor one of our first responders, please let me know, and I will send you the link to the Sign Up Genius. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Yes, I would like to encourage everybody to patronize our Madison businesses this holiday season. Downtown, County Line Road, Hughes Road, all of our small businesses have unique gifts. They have things you can't find at the big box stores. They have things that people will know that you spent the extra time thinking of something especially for them. Patronize our restaurants. We are working on our entertainment district as hard and fast as we can. I cannot wait. But take the time to take your family downtown. We have trees that are lit. They're beautiful trees. And so many people in our community have participated in decorating these trees. We have an ornament down there that is perfect for family Christmas pictures. Take it this year. Go ahead and send it out New Year's. It doesn't matter. People still love to see your picture. But I really want to encourage people to take the time to visit parts of our city that you haven't been to before, or that revisit places you've been before. We have so much to offer in our city, and it is so wonderful. We're not going to have a parade. So that time you were going to spend at the parade waiting for free candy, go spend your money in a Madison small business. That's all I have. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. District 3?
Well, I'll talk about the parade as well. We've talked about this. I have for several years. We didn't have it because of COVID, and then last year and this year, obviously, this year we made a decision for safety issues. Several times, we've tried to go across the tracks, and that was an issue, to go across the tracks and make that curve downtown. I know that's the hard part about it. But an alternative to that we've talked about is one that we've actually done, and that was when we had the Street Fest, and that's to go down Front Street. It still gets people downtown. It still gets people in the businesses. And, we have spent millions of dollars downtown to make downtown feel like downtown, and businesses have spent lots of money. The lights that you see on the buildings are not something the city does. That's something that the business owners do, and they have done. I know Mary Beth's worked, just countless hours. I've been in here with her at night, talking to businesses and getting them involved. And now you have a group of business owners that are really involved, even, more and more and more. And, to not take that parade downtown next year, I think, it's just an injustice to all those people that have worked on the businesses. That's from the business side. And now I'm going to speak a little bit on the personal side. I don't have my 3 minutes, and I'll take less than that. But on the personal side, I'm speaking for myself and other residents that live downtown. A lot of people have made the investment downtown, moved downtown. It takes a little bit more to do an older home than it does a newer home. The home that I have, I could have torn my home down and built it a lot cheaper than try to revitalize it. But our family chose to invest downtown to have that charm. As Madison grows, we'll be 70, 80,000 people. There's, less than 100 homes that are downtown. There's less than 50 homes. And, we invest all this time, this money. The residents move down there for the charm and to keep that charm. And it's not just for the residents, but it's for everybody to enjoy. I can tell you there's people that drive by my house or my neighbor's house. Talk about a neighbor watch. You got people, stopping by your house all the time. So I get calls from my neighbor, hey, somebody's outside your house. Yeah, thanks. They're just looking at the house. To make those investments both from the residential side and the business side, that's where we've come together, and the city's come together, and to write that off. Again, I'm glad to see you guys here, and appreciate y'all showing up for mentioning that. And like I said, I want to mention from the resident side, and that's really all I've got.
Thank you. District number 4.
It's
I was gonna say, we're gonna move the, Finance Committee meeting to the second meeting of the month at 4:00. So our first, Finance Committee meeting with this, since we've reorganized, will be next Monday at 4:00. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. District 6? Thank you.
For those that were at the last full meeting, I talked about how my emphasis was going to be on the well-being of the citizens. And after that meeting, I had the most interesting email, and I've been given permission to share part of it with you. It was written to me by Kathy Patrick, and she said her concern is for the fixed income and lower income residents of the city. I know a lady that works in Publix on Madison Boulevard, and she also works at Costco. It is sad that people have to work 2 or 3 jobs just to make ends meet. This is becoming more and more common with the continued rising prices. It's no wonder we have mental health issues on the rise when this is the reality for people. Please continue to keep this in mind, that there are trade-offs for everything that council does. We exchanged a couple of emails, and then she clarified her point. She said, my intent in writing you is to encourage you, as part of the council, to reduce the causes of stress, taxes, traffic, etc., for the people, not to be the solution. I thought her point was spot on. City Council can reduce stress by providing well-functioning public services. And I thought that was so intuitive of her to come up with that. And so I want to thank her for sharing that perspective, and I wanted to share it with y'all. And this last meeting, there was a lot of discussion. Yes, I brought up a lot of financial concerns. But what ended up swinging my decision to go for the community center itself was that it was going to provide a place for citizens to go where there would be a healthy, safe environment for them to do things together in order to build trust within the community by getting to know each other better. I also worked last summer several hours, several days down at our existing community center. And it's wonderful there, but there is so much more that could be done in a larger center. It is dated, okay? So to move the seniors there is good. Yes, it's going to cost us more in different ways, but I felt as a trade-off, it was worth it. The finance department assured us that the money was there to do it, okay? So that is why I know I didn't explain it very carefully last week, and I always said I'd explain my vote to the citizens, so that's why I went with that. The second thing relates to it in a lot of ways. I want to express my appreciation to the individuals have been writing and sending emails concerning the medical marijuana dispensaries. I don't think I've ever received so many emails on a single topic. And I have been reading the links, and I've been educating myself. So I appreciate all those that are getting involved because, again, that is something that will affect the well-being of our community. And so I just want to thank you all for doing that. Continue it. Today's just a first reading. It's not the vote until next time. Also, when I was going back with Kathy, now is a time for people to be stressed. And I brought up our mental health places to go, our resources before, and I just wanted to remind people, you know, they are out there. The Crisis Services of Northern Alabama, it's an excellent site to get resources. So is the NAMI, Huntsville.org. Wellstone, they have 2 walk-in crisis centers. So if anybody has issues during the holidays, please reach out to somebody. Please get the help. As far as what we talked about, as far as capital improvements, we were asked, what is it that we want to have our priorities? So I'm sharing that with you also. My number 1 is to have the Old Madison Pike and Hughes intersection up here. it's cattywomp, okay? Have that put into good order so it functions so much cleanly, so much better. That wasn't the word. But you know what I mean. It really needs help. And that is one of my first things, along with all road projects that are currently under the design phase. All those should be totally funded so we do get our roads working in good order. That's number one. Number two is the fire and police infrastructure, both in town Madison. I also would like to see another fire station out on the west side. I also would like to see a fire and police training infrastructure. I think that's very important too, that we can have well-trained staff. So all these things are just so important. And so I just wanted to explain myself to those that thought that I was just going off the rails. I do put a lot of thought into my votes. I do try to find out as much as I can before making my votes. And the very last thing, which I suppose hasn't been mentioned, is the Christmas capers. I'll end on a positive note. This Sunday at 4 o'clock, this Saturday at 4 o'clock, we are going to again have the rubber chickens go flying off of the building. It is such a fun event. It really is. And I just want to thank so many businesses and organizations that have been so generous in contributing to provide the wonderful prizes that will be had to the individuals lucky enough to catch a chicken. So with that, I'll say, and we'll have one more meeting before the holidays, but I wish everyone a very safe and healthy holiday season. And that's it.
Thank you. District 7?
As Mayor Finley mentioned earlier, we have Planning Commission this Thursday at 5:30. Thanks, Mayor, for bringing up those good things going on in the city. And then I guess from that standpoint, I believe we don't have a meeting before the holidays. It's actually after Christmas, so I will wish everybody a, what now?
It's the 19th.
Oh, it's the 19th. Okay, so I'm behind the scenes, but I wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
I said, we have one. I hope you're there.
You have one? All right.
Next Monday.
That's it.
Okay, just to clarify, we did originally have our second meeting in December scheduled for December 26th, but we have moved that back to December 19th next Monday. We discussed that at the work session. I think you were coming in late at the work session, so you might have missed that discussion. Also, we have a work session scheduled for January 11th. We'll be sending out a notice on that and an agenda very soon. And that's all I have. We're going to move to board and committee appointments, and Teddy, I think these are yours.
I have them all. I'll do all the heavy lifting tonight.
Okay.
So two of mine are for the Madison Historic Preservation Commission. Both Charlie Nola and Gerald Clark have served on there for several years. Actually served with Charlie, so that's been some time ago. And I am going to try to reappoint him to place 4. Do I need to do these separate?
Let's do it one at a time. Okay.
Place 4 for Charlie Nola.
Okay, so we have a nomination of Charles Nola for place 4 on the Madison Station Historic Preservation Commission. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, we will appoint him by acclamation. Next.
And the other one is Gerald Clark, place 7.
Are there any other nominations for place 7? Then we will appoint reappoint Gerald Clark by acclamation.
Okay. And my next one is for Zoning Board and Adjustment Appeals, and that's Brenda Bushman.
Any other nominations for place 4 for Zoning Board of Adjustment and Appeals? Then we will appoint Brenda Bushman by acclamation.
I'm done for tonight.
All right. Okay, so department reports. Start with legal. Mr. Kilgore.
Good evening. Legal was asked to prepare proposed ordinance number 2022-320. This was an amendment to the city code increasing the general penalties for misdemeanors in the municipal court. We had our first reading on December the 12th. As you recall, what we had here was a situation where our code only followed the 2005 mandates by the statute that limited the city to a $500 fine and 6 months imprisonment. And over the last 18 years, the state statute has gradually given all kinds of exceptions to that and gives cities much more discretion as far as what they can actually have as a fine and what the imprisonment might be. For instance, a Class A misdemeanor under the state law now allows us, the city, to assign a $5,000 fine for things like leaving the scene of an accident, domestic violence cases, things like that, whereas right now we're limited to $500 fine and 6 months as far as imprisonment. With this being enacted, we would be able to go up to $5,000 for a fine on Class A misdemeanors and up to 12 months for imprisonment. So that is what this ordinance states, and it's just bringing it up to the level of the state statute and what it allows.
Okay, and this is just a first reading today.
I'm sorry, it is the first reading. I apologize.
Okay,
we had talked about, I'm sorry, I apologize.
I think you did mention it in a previous work session. Okay, all right, so that's first reading. All right, next.
Okay. All right, next what we have here is amendment of the city code to allow virtual participation by city council and the mayor. This was something that we discussed during work session, but is now for a first reading. Basically, this ordinance would basically, if you're ill, you can call in, but if you did call in, there would have to be a physical quorum here in order for that person to attend virtually. So everyone couldn't call in on the same day. You'd have to have a physical quorum in order to proceed. Under the ordinance, and it's basically parroting the state statute, someone who's attending virtually is attending for all purposes and can vote.
Okay, and this was designed so that someone who might be contagious could still participate in virtually.
Yes.
If they were ill. Okay. All right. That's first reading. Go ahead.
Okay. Next, we have proposed ordinance. Here's the first reading. Proposed ordinance number 2022-327. This is authorization for the operation of medical cannabis dispensaries within the corporate limits of City Madison, Alabama, pursuant to Alabama Code Section 20-2A51C. This is the first reading. There was a lengthy discussion during the work session about some of this. I believe there were a couple questions posed to legal that I wanted to address. I had sent an email out, but I just wanted to answer those publicly. One question that was asked was, what has the county done? Because there was some concern, what happens if they authorize a dispensary right outside of city limits? Would we get all the negatives but none of the benefits? My understanding is that the county, I'm sorry, I might have misspoken, the county, Madison County, has not taken any actions yet on this, and they don't plan to. However, that could change next week or the week after that. There's also a question as to the deadline. I reached out to the council for the Cannabis Commission in Montgomery to sort out whether or not the council would be limited in being able to vote on this at some later time to let the dust settle and then make their decision later about whether or not to do this. And I was advised that there's not a set deadline. Basically, the council can take action whenever it wants to. But the way this is set up, all these applicants have to turn in their application for their license before December the 31st. And during that process, they have to say, where's it going to be located? And they have to have a copy of their business license. So as a practical matter, if someone is sitting on the sidelines going, I want to locate in Madison, they can't get their business license before the end of the year, and they can't say with any surety to the state that they're going to have a location in Madison. Those folks are it's just unlikely that one of these dispensaries would be here. So it's kind of a de facto deadline, but the council can take actions whenever it wants, but those licenses are probably going to designate locations before the council could say, if they took action in June, everyone would probably have their locations already set out.
Mr. Kilgore, you said you checked with Madison County. Did you also check with Limestone County?
I did not check with Limestone. Unfortunately, I cannot report on where Limestone is, but I do know that Athens very recently did pass one. But I don't know about the county itself.
Thank you.
So for clarification, if somebody wanted to apply for a license say it gets approved next Monday and they want to apply for a license, by December 31st, they have to have the address where they own the property. There doesn't necessarily have to be a building, but they have to own the property. Is that correct?
They have to be able to designate the location. And I also was able to clarify that although there's a December 31st deadline, there's a bit of a grace period for the first couple of months where applicants can go back and cure some of these things. And from what I understand, they might be able to come back a little later and say, this is going to be where the location is. Now I've got my business license. But it goes up to April. Then there's kind of a drop dead date as far as everyone that's applied. And then there's a period of public comment for 30 days, and then after that, they actually award the licenses. So for what I'm being told, in a situation like this, they very well could maybe cure some of this with their application, but it does put them behind the 8 ball when they're trying to apply and they have all these, there's hundreds of applicants for just those few licenses. So obviously, the people that have a location early and a business license, they're probably going to get different consideration from the folks that just can't say where it's going to be.
Okay. Do we know if the couple of dispensaries that have approached us have property within the city limits? Do we know that?
I'm not aware as far as if it was acquired any property. I know that we've had people reach out to the mayor's office and to legal. We recently had someone who reached out to only put the cultivation location of their operation in Madison. If there's any additional information, I wouldn't have it. I don't know that unless Mary Beth has any additional information as far as steps people have taken to locate here. Unfortunately, I can't answer that question.
I'm just wondering if we need to vote, if it's even going to be possible for a business to have property by December 31st in a standalone secure building, or is this something that should be tabled, or what is the best procedure for this?
According to the direction we received at the last work session when this was introduced, I think the question was, should we put it on the agenda for a first reading? And the feedback that I received was you were wanting more information, which we've been provided. I think Mary Beth sent you an email, and as well as Mr. Kilgore, that we would put it on tonight's agenda for a first reading. It would then follow on December 19th for a vote, unless, and there would need to be a motion and a second to move it forward. We would discuss it. There would then, if there was a motion to table, that could happen, or we could have an up or down vote if there's a motion or a second. If we don't have a motion and a second, that'll die there.
It dies. Okay.
So that's procedurally how we've got this set up.
And Mary Beth, you could help me with this, but I do know we've had someone talk to us. They've talked with Mary Beth about locations on where it would be. I don't think they've purchased something, but they've defined 2 or 3, maybe down to 1 place. Mary Beth, can you help them with that, please?
I'm not aware of any of the dispensaries having acquired property, but they may not have told us that. However, I was contacted from a cultivator, as Brian was mentioning, and they've secured a piece of property. And interestingly, under state law, to operate a dispensary or an integrated facility, which includes a dispensary, you have to have permission from the local government, meaning you all have to adopt this ordinance. But there is nothing in state law regarding council having to adopt an ordinance for a cultivation facility or processing facility, which are classified as manufacturing. So haven't started to explore that yet, but the dispensary is the only thing where you've got, I'll say, more power, if you will, beyond regular zoning. And again, we were told that somebody's acquired a property, an industrial property for cultivation.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I would like to thank everyone who's been emailing the council, sharing your views, everyone who showed up this evening. We're not voting this evening. It's just a first reading, and now it is scheduled to be on our agenda next Monday, December 19th. Okay, moving on.
Next, we have resolution number 2022-328-R. This is requesting authorization for archiving and publishing the audiovisual from the November 30th, 2022 work session meeting.
That's where we had a vote as well following the work session.
Yes.
Is there a motion and second?
Move to approve.
Okay. I think
Aaron can have it. I can second.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any discussion? Ready for a vote.
Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Council President Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw?
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next.
Next up, we have resolution number 2022-333-R. This is authorization of a change order that was submitted by McMinnis Construction, LLC, Miller and Miller Incorporated Joint Venture 2. That's a mouthful, but it's the joint venture that's putting together, that was awarded the bid for the Phase 2 I-565 construction of the westbound ramps. There was some discussion, I think, at some earlier work sessions, maybe at the end, I believe whichever one that we had in September, that if we were to extend the bid as it went out a good 60 days, I believe, that there were going to be some problems with this joint venture being able to match some of the steel prices. That it was very volatile and they expected them to increase. And this is basically, that's come to fruition. They have submitted this change order for $260,000 to be paid ultimately from the bond proceeds in order for them to manage the volatility of some of those materials for the construction of the overpass.
Can I have a motion and a second?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any other discussion or questions?
I'd like to thank them for working for us and working with us on this issue. Miller & Miller has been great to work with, and I know a lot of moving parts. I really appreciate them being a little bit forgiving on the time frame.
Anything else?
So this had to do directly with the cost of the product that they were...
It was, and they let us know immediately when we told them that there would be a delay before we could make a decision on awarding the bid. They were in contact, I believe, with Councilman Shaw, also, and they had made it very clear that there was a volatility, especially in steel, and an increase, and this was right in line with what they had basically telegraphed to us from the get-go as far as how much they would have to submit for that change order.
Okay. So it seems like quite a lot for a short amount of time.
Well, again, it was over the course, I think there was a good 60 days there from the point that we anticipated that we'd be able to accept the bid or handle the bid, to the point that there actually was an award of the bid, and they were able, and I understand from the industry and just talking to some other folks that have been involved in some other projects, that there's a lot of volatility with these costs, partially associated with inflation. So they did communicate this pretty early to us.
I think there was an intervening hurricane as well.
Mm-hmm. They went back to their vendors because whatever day their bid was up, their subs would only hold price till that date. So when we said we need to extend it past your date, they went back to all their vendors and said, what is your price going to be if you go up? So everybody went up that amount, and so they're not going to eat it.
Mm-hmm. So because we delayed and negotiated, this was the change. This is what you're telling me.
Mm-hmm. What now?
Because we delayed, because we were in negotiation longer, this is the result of that. The
price increase on that.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, but now that we're into this contract, the prices are not going to continue to go up?
No, that's why they did this. Unless there's a change order. Unless we change something in
Well, it just seems like if in this short amount of time, that much went up, once we are now into this, they're going to be eating our costs going forward.
Correct.
Okay.
The same thing happened with the multi-use facility. Same thing happened with the Three Springs. I mean, it went up $2 million in 2 months, 3 months.
Okay.
So.
Well, I just want to clarify for all the people that this isn't going to keep happening. Yes?
As long as there are no change orders.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Ready for a vote.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw?
Aye.
Council President Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert?
Aye.
Okay, last ordinance.
Yes. Next up, we have another first reading. This is proposed ordinance number 2024-334. This is for authorization to issue warrants or bonds for the construction, for the purpose of funding the construction of the I-565 westbound ramps and to, for lack of a better word, complete the Town Madison buyout. What we have here is a agreement that was prepared by our outside bond counsel, and we've inserted a lot of the figures in brackets, as you may have had a chance to review this. Unfortunately, at this point, going to the bond market, we don't have set dollar figures down to the dollar to the cent as far as what some of these figures will be. A lot of that's going to be dictated at the moment that we actually go to the bond market, and then those will have to be inserted with more specificity as far as what you actually vote on next week. Mr. Bolt, Preston Bolt, is outside counsel that has prepared this. He is going to be available next council meeting for this vote, so if you have any more in-depth questions as far as some of the more, intricate details as far as the document. He will be here for that, but we basically substantively, all the terms and everything here are there. It's just understand that those bracketed amounts are subject to change and again, I can't tell you how much they're going to change until we go to the market, but right now, this is the best information we have to provide to you.
Okay, thank you, and that's just a first reading. We'll have the numbers for you on Monday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, recreation.
My favorite person tonight.
Good evening. I have resolution number 2022-332-R, authorizing the purchase of shade structures for the Kids Kingdom Playground renovation project in Dublin Park in the amount of $70,901.51. As you recall, we recently purchased the restroom and finalized our site plan. So the last step in this process is to purchase the shade structures for the playground, not only for over the play structures itself, but shade for the parents that are watching their kids.
Move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? Ready for a vote.
Councilmember Robleski?
Aye.
Councilmember Powell?
Aye.
Council President Bartlett?
Aye.
Councilmember Spears?
Aye.
Councilmember Shaw?
Aye.
Councilmember Denzine?
Aye.
Councilmember Seifert?
Aye.
And motion passes. Any miscellaneous business announcements, anyone?
Just a reminder that the meeting is next Monday night.
1 week from tonight.
Isn't it at the same time?
No, we had to move it to 6:30 to accommodate Mrs. Spears, who has a Madison Utilities meeting, so it will begin at 6:30 p.m.
Thought so.
Okay, thank you. And entertaining motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
I think